Hey guys, in this episode I'm going to cover how to line the inside of a trunk. A lot of people, if you read online, use paper to line the inside of their trunks, and I found that fabric looks a lot nicer. There's a bigger variety of fabric as far as colors, patterns, and different things you can do with it when compared to paper. Now it also lasts a lot longer. As you can see right here, I have a trunk that the inside's already been lined in, and I just wanted to show you an example of what it would look like whenever it's done. As you can see, it looks pretty good. Now for this tutorial, I'm not going to work on an actual trunk. I'm going to use this plywood trunk that I made that has the front cutaway on it, and that will allow you to see better on the inside exactly what I'm doing. I made a video previous to this, and I just had a really hard time showing exactly what I was doing because it's hard to see down inside the actual trunk. So this way you guys will be able to get a good view of what's actually happening in there and exactly how to do everything. Okay, the first step in lining the inside of your trunk is going to be to take some measurements. And what these measurements are going to be used for is for the size of your fabric and for the size of the poster board that the fabric will actually be mounted to. So whenever I take my measurement here of my width on the side, I come up with 15 1/4. You're going to want to subtract 1/4 inch from each of your measurements. So right here I measure 15 1/4, so my measurement's going to be 15. Okay, so what we're going to do here is cut our first piece of poster board out, and it's going to be for the bottom of the trunk. So I've measured the length and the width, and I've subtracted 1/4 inch from each of those measurements. So my measurements end up being 26 1/4 by 14 inches. And these measurements, they don't have to be perfectly accurate, and you'll understand more why that is as we go through the process. So I'm going to measure 14 inches here, and then I'm going to take my razor knife and cut this piece to size. And it helps if you have I use brand new razor blades all the time. I'll probably go through 3 or 4 razor blades on each trunk. That one's pretty dull. You saw how it didn't cut very well. It'll make your life 100 times easier if you change the blades out as soon as they start to get dull. Okay, now you can see I have this piece that's going to fit right in the bottom. And you'll see that there's these large gaps here. And that's okay, because with this style, with doing the decorative border, we're going to take a piece of poster board like this for an example, and it's going to sit like this, and you'll never be able to see those gaps in there. What happens is, if you try to cut it to the exact size, whenever you set it down in here, you're going to have a really hard time getting this poster board to fit perfectly and not get any wrinkles in it. It is possible to do it with no border, but in this tutorial I'm going to do it with a border just because it's a lot easier. Okay, now I've gotten the bottom cut out, and I want you to go ahead and do the same thing for each side. Remember, take your measurements, subtract 1/4 inch, and you'll be good to go. Bottom, both sides, front and back. Okay, after you finish getting your poster board pieces cut out, I'm just going to do 3 since this is an example. After you get all your pieces cut out, you're going to want to cut out your fabric. Now, as far as fabric goes, I like to use 100% cotton broadcloth. You can just go to Joann Fabrics and pick out whatever you want. The reason I like the 100% cotton is it seems that it's just a little bit easier to work with, and it adheres very well, and I've never had any problems with it. And whenever you go to cut out your fabric, just take your pieces of poster board that you cut out and cut the fabric out around it. Now you want to leave about an inch border around the poster board. In other words, your fabric's going to be an inch bigger on either side of your poster board. And you can just go ahead and take a razor knife or a pair of scissors and cut it right out. And just repeat this for each side of your trunk. For each piece of cardboard, go ahead and cut out the fabric, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now what we're going to do here is, after we get all of our fabric cut out, we're going to iron it and remove any wrinkles and defects in the cloth. What I like to do is I like to spray it down with a mist of water. The steam helps get any wrinkles out of it. Now, another point, you can pre-wash your fabric if you want to, and it does seem to help get a lot of the wrinkles out of it, but the downside to that is I've found if I pre-wash my fabric, it gets a lot softer and it's not as rigid, and it makes it a little bit harder to work with. It makes it a little easier to wrinkle rather than when the fabric's brand new. It's a little bit stiff, and whenever you're gluing this all together, it just seems to not wrinkle up or get bubbles in it as easily if you don't wash it. So I definitely recommend just working with the fabric as it comes from the store. You want to get every wrinkle out of this that you possibly can. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but the smoother and more uniform it is, the better it'll look. Okay, now what we're going to do next is we're going to apply the fabric to the poster board. And what I use is 3M Super 77. It's available at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can find it in the section with all the different glues and stuff like that. What it is it's a spray adhesive. There's another one, I think it's called Super 90 or something. You don't want to use that. You definitely want Super 77. And what we're going to do is we're going to shake this up really well, and we are going to spray down our poster board with it. Now stay about 6 to 8 inches away and completely cover it. And you might want to do this outside. The stuff's really sticky. It gets all over everything. That makes a big mess, but it works well. Okay, now I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a few spots where there's kind of a little bubble of adhesive. Just take your finger and pop those little bubbles, or else they'll soak through your fabric. Okay, now what we want to do is we're going to go put this on our fabric. Okay, here's our piece of fabric that we had just ironed, and here's our poster board that we sprayed down. You want to set it down right on there. Remember, your fabric's going to overlap or be larger than the poster board. So just set it on there. Pat it down nice like this. Now it's already going to be stuck there and it's not coming off. So flip it over, and if you got any wrinkles, you can run over it real quick with the iron. Right there, it's a little bit dirty. It's got some dust on it, but we'll take care of that when we're done. But you can see there that it's wrinkle free, and it's definitely stuck on there very well. Okay, in this step we are going to get rid of this overlap of fabric. All you need is a pair of scissors and a Scotch Clear Glue 2-way applicator. You take a look there. You can find them at Walmart is where I buy them. I go through probably about 20 of them a week, and I haven't been able to find anybody that's cheaper than Walmart. Even Amazon, they're like, $4 or $5 a piece, and at Walmart they're $1.98. You're going to use one side of it. If you unscrew the cap, take off, you see it's got like a marker style tip to it. There's a little plastic thing in there. Take that cap off, and you'll be all ready to go. This glue works absolutely fabulous for this. I've tried probably 30 different glues just for this specific application, and this is the best thing I've found. It dries clear, it dries fast, and it's very strong. Now what you want to do is start at a corner and go ahead and just simply cut your corner out. Get rid of that extra fabric on here. Okay, now after you do that, you want to go ahead and just simply cut into the fabric up to the poster board. Okay. After you've done that, you want to take your marker glue tip and completely wet that area down. And then just simply fold it over, rub it a little bit, fold over the next tab, rub it, next tab, rub it, and so on and so forth until you have completed this process for every piece of fabric and poster board that you're going to install inside your trunk. It's a little bit time consuming, but it'll look really nice whenever you're finished. You know, and also, you know, with antique trunks, a lot of times you get a bad smell inside of them. By the time you sand out and clean the inside and remove all the paper, and you install this stuff in there, it's going to smell like a brand new piece of furniture inside. But, you know, makes it usable. You can store blankets in it or anything. Okay, we'll move on to the next step. Go ahead and do this to all of your pieces, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, in this step we are going to be installing our fabric into the actual trunk. And what I wanted to tell you too, if you label everything, it makes it a lot easier. You know which order it goes in, which part's what. Like I said, we're going to start with the bottom. And what we're going to do is, we're going to spray this with adhesive, and then we're also going to spray this surface with adhesive. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that there's no dust, dirt, loose wood, or anything on here. It's got to be a real clean surface so you get good adhesion. If you have a bunch of dust on here, this is simply going to adhere to the dust and you'll be able to pull it right off. So make sure you clean it out real well and there's no dust or anything. Okay, so we're getting the inside cleaned out well. No dust, dirt, or anything like that. We're going to take our adhesive. We're going to spray a very thick layer of adhesive onto the poster board. Spray real close, about 3 inches away, and cover the entire thing. Make sure you get the edges very well too. Really get it good and soaked down. And then spray the inside. You don't have to put as thick of a coating on it. Okay. Then what you're going to do is, you're going to take your piece and you're going to drop it down inside the trunk. And get your bottom done. Press down real well. It only takes a second for it to set up. And that's your bottom. As you'll notice, there's a gap here, gap here, gap here. It doesn't matter because we're going to put that border in here. It's going to cover all that up and nobody will ever know that it's there. Next, I like to do the fronts and backs. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. And what I want to show you is, after we spray this, the only thing you really need to worry about is lining up the upper lid. Because you want it to be completely flush with the top leading edge of the trunk where the lid meets right here. Doesn't matter what's going on down here, it doesn't matter what this gap is here, it doesn't matter if there's an 1/8 of an inch gap here and a 1/4 inch gap here. Just concentrate whenever you go to set this in here on getting this seam, or this edge, to meet this edge so it looks nice and uniform. Now what we're going to do, since this isn't already in here, we don't want to be spraying adhesive in here. It's really your choice. If you want to mask this off and spray here and here, that's fine. You will get a better bond. But I've found as long as you soak this portion well with a lot of adhesive, it never comes off. It doesn't peel. Very sturdy adhesion. Keep spraying it. Make sure you get the top edge really well, the part that's going to be right here, because as people put things in and out of the trunk, things are going to rub right there and you don't want it to peel off. So make sure you get plenty of adhesive sprayed on the outer edges of that. Now you also want to cover the center well just so it doesn't ever pull away. Okay, this one's all ready to set in there. So remember, concentrate on that upper edge. And it doesn't stick immediately. It gives you about, maybe 5 or 10 seconds to work with it. Make sure it gets seated well. Just keep rubbing your hand over it for a minute. And then you're good to go. And we'll move on to doing the side. It's going to work basically the same way. Well, exactly the same way. Make sure you know which way it's going to go. Whenever you go to set it in here, you don't want to plop it on there like that. So make sure you know which way it's going to line up. And we'll just spray it down like we did the other ones. Okay, looks pretty good. Remember, keep an eye on that leading edge. Let's pretend there's the front's on here. Just going to take it. Set it down in here. Get that edge lined up perfectly. There we go. Okay, for the border, basically we're going to do the exact same thing. Only we're going to cut strips of poster board. If you want a 1-inch border on each side, cut your strips about 2 inches wide. If whatever size you want, it doesn't matter. It can be a really small border, a large border, whatever. As long as it's big enough to cover up these gaps we're going to have. So we're going to cut our strips. We're going to cut one for here, back, and up and down, and to cover all those corners. Like I said, I usually cut them about 2 inches wide. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover these in fabric. Okay, as you can see here, I've just cut a bunch of strips, about 2 inches wide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measurement, and let's start here. So it's about 12 7/8. So I'm going to take my strip, and excuse me for a minute. I'm going to to measure 12 7/8. You want to get all your cuts nice and straight. Okay, so now I got my piece. It's going to fit in here perfectly. And we need to do one more thing. We need to make a crease in it so it can lay here. You have the part that comes up here and the part that comes down here. So we're just going to cut. We're going to kind of score it right in the center of the strip to make our fold. Okay, so I marked the center, and I'll line up my straight edge on those lines. I'm going to take a razor blade. I'm just going to very, very lightly run it down here. Maybe 2 times, very lightly, just using the weight of the knife. And it's going to bend very nicely. You're going to get a perfect corner, and that's going to sit in there just right. Okay, now as you can see, we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we did with the larger portions of the solid color fabric. We're just going to cut these out, oversized, just like before. And then this fabric is not wrinkled at all, so we're going to skip ironing. If you need to iron, go ahead and iron. Flip that over. Now you want to spray the part that folds in with the spray adhesive, not this side, but this side. Just going to take a little bit of adhesive, spray it down, and we're going to stick it right on there, smooth it out, flip it over, smooth it out, and there you can see. Now we just need to make our cuts in it, fold it over, and we'll install it. Now, as you can see here, I've cut it, and I'm just going to do like we did before. Just going to put glue all around here, take each piece, fold them over. Go ahead and do that for every piece that you need for inside of your trunk. Okay, as you can see, I have my border piece done. See that nice crease in there, no wrinkles or anything. What we're going to do is we're going to spray it with adhesive. Get a nice good coating on there. You don't want to skimp on the adhesive at all. Spray it down. It's nice and wet. Come around and install this. You might want to run your fingers along the edge here. It'll remove any extra adhesive that might be sticking out. Fold it into a 90-degree angle and put it right in there. Just use some light pressure. Make sure it gets stuck in there well. And you just want to keep repeating this for each seam that you have, each corner, all the way around. Okay, now after you get all of your fabric installed and all of the border, there's a few finishing touches you can do with it. What I like to do is, on these edges, on the very top, I like to use some really small nails. I like to use one right here at the edge of the border, kind of at the corner of the border, right here, and then I'll put a few along here. And that just gives it some, some more holding force. As you're pulling blankets and putting things in here, everything rubs right on that edge. And sooner or later, it's going to start working that off. It might be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But whenever I do something, I like to build it to last. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take an awl. It's just it has a sharp point on it. And right here, where I want to put my nail, I'm just going to press in with a little bit of force and make an indentation in it. And then I'm going to stick my nail in that hole. Then take my small hammer and just tap it in. And you got to remember, you're working with antique wood, so you don't want to be beating on this with a huge hammer. And whenever you use the awl to punch a hole in there, it just takes less stress off the wood. You know, this isn't a connection that has to be, you know, extremely mechanically tight or over-engineered or something like that. It's just a simple nail just to hold the fabric there. Just tap it in. I'm going to do one there, I'm going to do one here, each corner of the border, and all along the top.